Are you an aspiring writer who is completely stumped about what your next story should be? Check this out. Rewind your clock back to the early 19th century, before video games, before movies and TV, before comic books, even photography was still widely inaccessible. Your primary source of visual entertainment was illustration. Or if you wanted something flashy, you could maybe visit the stage, but these mediums had their limits. Theater productions were mostly for rich folks, and because of the limited tech at the time, story settings were severely constrained. If you tried to tell a story that took place outside of a small interior, the audience would have to suspend disbelief, and that can really only work so far. The more otherworldly a story was, the more difficult it would be to translate it to the stage. And although illustrations allowed fantastic imagery, it was limited in terms of narration. So in the early 1800s, a bunch of different dudes began experimenting with an idea. Could it be possible to bring larger-than-life pictures onto the stage to allow for a more action-packed experience? What resulted was the Myriorama, moving panoramas that could combine with music and stage narration to tell bigger and more spectacular stories than ever before. A super-long banner would be meticulously painted with vivid colors and feature an uninterrupted horizon line. Both ends of this banner would then be rolled up on spools that would be slowly hand-cranked backstage during the performance, treating the audience to a rudimentary version of a one-take tracking shot. Ta-da! Movies, sort of. Stage performers would be placed in front of these massive machines, facilitating state-of-the-art theater innovations like travel montages and even sweeping action scenes. I know it all seems archaic now, but back then, this was the equivalent of a Hollywood blockbuster. During the 1800s, Myriorama shows would tour the world, and exhibition halls were jam-packed with people wanting to see this new technical marvel. And although it did have its critics, many theater purists believed that this new invention would bring about the death of imagination. The crankies continued to develop, and before long, lower and middle-class audiences were finally able to experience immersive theater. And of course, the concept acted as an early ancestor to motion pictures, which would change storytelling even more. A few Myriораmas from this time period still exist today, the largest of which is an 8-foot-high, 850-foot-long hand-painted panorama of John Bunyan's The Pilgrim's Progress in Saco, Maine, which has some of the most incredible artwork that I have ever seen. So what does this have to do with writer's block? Well, around the time The Pilgrim's Progress and other Myrioramas toured the world, a miniature version of the illustration technique began to be employed in children's toys called endless landscapes, in which a Myriorama was cut up into a deck of cards, which allowed individual moments to be shuffled and rearranged to tell a seemingly infinite number of stories. Those cards are the cure for the common writer's block. They're still being made to this day. Here's 3 different themed sets that I found being marketed as storytelling card games. You can find a ton of these cards online. You can even print them out and make your own deck. Inside of the ones I found are 20 different cards with highly stylized illustrations, all rendered on an endless landscape. Need to generate an entire murder mystery? Just shuffle the deck up and lay the cards out one by one, each card being an individual story chapter or movie scene. You can even turn it into an improvisational party game. Just deal the cards out between you and your friends, and each of you can take turns laying a card down to collaborate on an original story. What story does this image tell? Or this? Or this? Even in a pack of just 20 different cards, there are over 2,432,902 million combinations. A story of steampunk espionage can morph into a moody, monster-filled midnight at the flip of a card, and if it starts to get a little boring, mix it up. Start with a scene in the middle, wind the clock back, and then discover the resolution. And at this point, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, Austin, all of that is sort of interesting, but honestly, at the end of the day, who cares? And to that I say, Well, you do. I mean, you're the one who clicked on the video, right? Writer's block has had a long and storied history, pun intended, and different people have dealt with it over the years in different ways. It's interesting to me that seemingly archaic innovations in other creative mediums can offer possible solutions. And I guess it's a reminder that when it comes to making stuff, no discipline is necessarily above any other. Ultimately, we're all just trying to tell stories in our own ways to find a way to connect with each other. Or something. But if you're stuck and you want to get unstuck, maybe give these a try. Or I guess just use ChatGPT if you're into that. I don't know, I thought these were cool. This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful website. Do you have a creation to show off, or maybe a business idea that you want to bring to life? They've got everything that you need to get online. Start with one of their best-in-class website templates, and then use their new Fluid engine to customize it just the way you need. You can use their member areas feature to host exclusive video content, and as always, if you've got something to sell, their online storefront makes it easy. Head to squarespace.com to start a free trial today. Then, when you're ready to launch your site in full, go to squarespace.com/AustinMcConnell and you can save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.